Hey everyone, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to everyone who is joining us from across the globe today. We are live today for this session, and I can see that many of you all have started streaming in on YouTube. And for all those who have joined this particular call, if you can let us know which city are you dialing in from, if you can let us know in the chat box as to which city are you guys dialing in from. We have Supraj who has joined us from Hyderabad. Vikash, who has joined from Bangalore. For all those who have joined just now, if you can let us know in the chat which city are you dialing in from this particular call. We have people joining in from Bhopal. We have Abib, who has joined us from Lagos, Nigeria. We have people from Surat, from Tirupati in Andhra Pradesh. Again, people from Bangalore, Hyderabad, the IT capitals of India. People from Durgapur, Darjeeling, Bangalore again. Folks from Nairobi, Pune, Lagos, Tirupati, Cairo, Nigeria. That's wonderful. The entire world is here today. Students have logged in from across the globe today for this session. All right. With that, I am Moin Natar Naik and I am representing Seed Global Education today. We are a higher education firm based out in the United Kingdom, and we help high potential students like yourself in making your dreams of studying either an MBA, a STEM master's, or a business master's in top global universities a dream reality. And today, for the next 60 minutes, we would be discussing about digital supply chain technology and transformations and the role of advanced technologies in it. And this masterclass today is brought by New York University Tandon School of Engineering. Supply chain management is at the core of almost any organizations who drive for competitive advantage. Despite advances in technology, many organizations still struggle to leverage these capabilities. Today, we would be looking at the modern supply chain management and the impact of advanced technologies on their design, development, and management. A little bit more about NYU Tandon. NYU Tandon School of Engineering is the second oldest private engineering and technology school in the United States. Its main campus is in Brooklyn, Metrotech Center, an urban academic industrial research park. NYU Tandon has been ranked 38 as the best global university, and its top employers are Nordstrom, Microsoft, PwC, Amazon, Google, Oracle, EY, Deloitte, Apple, Goldman Sachs, and many more. Allow me to introduce our panel members today. We have Professor Tom Mazzone, who is an industry professor in technology management and innovation at NYU Tandon School of Engineering and is the academic director of Industrial Engineering Program. He has developed several courses centered on team and leadership development, operations and supply chain management, project delivery, innovation, and strategic chain management. He also has significant industry experience from both leading change and developing organizational capabilities to successfully transform and continuously improve. Professor Mazzone has had significant experience in both supply chain consulting and leading large-scale technology-based transformation programs. We are grateful to have you with us, Professor Mazzone. Next up, we
Very happy to
also
be
have
here.
with us Ms. Liana Kowalis, who is the Director, Recruitment and Enrollment Marketing at NYU Tandon School of Engineering. And she has dedicated over 7 years to advancing the school's graduate marketing and recruitment strategies. With extensive experience in international education and recruitment, Liana previously held the position of Director of International Recruitment at Westminster College, where she has led various global initiatives for over 7 years. Thank you so much for being with us, Liana. All right. With this, before we proceed ahead with the session, I had a quick poll for all the students who have joined this call today, and I would be launching that poll right now. So if you can let us, which advanced technologies are you most interested in learning in supply chain management? Is it about artificial intelligence, about blockchain, Internet of Things, big data analytics, cloud computing, or any other next-gen technology? We would be waiting for the next 10 seconds for your responses to drop in. Last 5 seconds. All right, we have got all the answers in, and I would be sharing the results now. So almost 74% of y'all think that artificial intelligence is the go-to technology ahead when it comes to supply chain transformation. Many of y'all think blockchain, IoT, big data, and cloud computing do equally contribute as well. So with this, I now hand over the floor to Professor Mazoon to help us deep dive into the subject matter at hand.
Great. Well, thanks so much for that outstanding introduction. And I'm really excited to see so many people from so many different places. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. And I'll take you through the presentation. So I've already had a great introduction. I just want to say that I have a lot of experience in supply chain, both teaching and researching, publishing, as well as leading. So this is an area that's very close to my heart and an area that I have a lot of experience in. And I'm very excited to be able to share all this with you. Supply chains are important, and it's really important to understand how advances in technologies, especially digital-based technologies, are impacting how supply chains are designed, developed, and managed. And so today we're going to go into kind of where are we today in supply chains and where are we going, and how does this set the stage for better understanding um, how to think about technologies and where to apply them. So key highlights as was talked about. In order to understand the role and opportunities for technologies, we really need to understand the context for supply chains, what the current thinking is on supply chains, and how the changing environment is really changing the way we need to think about supply chains. As you'll see today, and you'll see if you would join us in studying here, that in part it's around certainly getting a deeper understanding of technologies, what they are, what they're capable of. But maybe more importantly, it's getting an understanding of the new models that these technologies enable and use that as a better foundation for understanding where to apply these technologies. So as context, the changing landscape and the need for new models. So why are we talking about supply chains? Well, obviously, supply chains are critical to almost everything we do in society. Okay, they've become central to just about all organizations, and largely they're determining what defines success in companies. The onset of the digital revolution has both increased the importance of supply chains because it makes it easier for us to specialize, easier for us to connect, but it's also making it much more difficult for us to manage these supply chains because it's increasing the pace of change and the need to better collaborate. And our models don't really help that. So we really need a new way of looking at supply chains and management in general if we're going to be able to take advantage of these new technologies. Why are they so difficult to manage, and how did we get here? So I think we're all familiar with economic theory and the theory of comparative advantage, which basically has ushered in the age of hyper specialization. And technologies have enabled that. They make it easier for small startups to make things that used to take big companies, and these technologies make it easier for people to connect those small startups. And so what we're basically seeing is a emergence of large-scale, um, multi-tiered, um, highly connected ecosystems of suppliers and customers that at some level, while they do provide advantages in terms of lower cost, create what appears to be inherently more complexity in terms of how we connect everyone. Here's a obviously overly stylized way of looking at it. Lots of suppliers, lots of producers, lots of customers. This becomes a very challenging um, system to manage. The solution to deal with complexity isn't really helping and may actually be making the problem more difficult. The traditional approach is to simplification. Again, we're trying to take something that's complicated, right? Supply chain that's growing, multiple tiers in multiple directions, and simplify it because obviously the simpler we can make it, the easier it's going to be to manage. Contracts feel like a way to make things simple. Certification, if we can get people um, qualified to work with us, then we can rely on them. Make sure they're trained. Make sure they use our system, our ERP system. Make sure we have good procurement teams. Okay, we need good legal counsel, right? We have lots of contracts. The contracts will quote unquote protect us. Make sure we have good procurement teams. However, the solutions have probably made the problem worse. Okay, certifications are costly, they're complicated to obtain, maintain. Most of this is based on the assumption that forecasting and inventory control systems can actually forecast and control things. But well, as we'll see as we'll talk about in a moment, the world is becoming inherently more difficult to forecast, inherently more difficult to control. And as a result, ERP systems, which are very large, expensive, difficult things to implement, are becoming more and more unwieldy because they're really based on a model that is no longer applicable. And this certainly results in contracts that are basically virtually impossible to write and certainly not possible to enforce. So where does that lead us? We need to really rethink um, the way we think about supply chains and um, organizations in general to adapt to these new realities. Um, the current environment in both supply chains and operations is fundamentally focused on cost efficiency and plan driven. The idea is that supplies, right, are not important. They're not as important as things like marketing and product development. They're supplies, so we should be thinking about the way to minimize the cost of supplies. Okay. And therefore, the overall objective is efficiency. So the philosophy is to lower the overall cost, and that will lead to higher profits. There, the problem is this drive for increased productivity is ultimately centered on eliminating people and making those people that remain work harder to drive the costs down. The reality is actually an environment that is obviously driven by technology, and that increases the speed of of change and the need for organizations to adapt to change. And this is a new way of looking at supply chains, moving away from how do we reduce costs, how do we optimize networks, how do we strong arm suppliers, to how do we collaborate with suppliers to dynamically and collaboratively not only engage in the market, but proactively um, manage it to increase productivity through people capability, connectivity, and creativity to increase sales. At some level, we're in the middle of a revolution. Um, what is a revolution, right? Sudden, radical, or complete change, okay? A fundamental shift in the way we think about things. And effectively, what's happening in operations and organizations generally and supply chains in particular is that there's a revolution going on that requires a radical mind shift. The current mind shift is really rooted in Industry 2.0, which is, the original industrial revolution, let's call it. And it was fundamentally based on perfect information, unbounded rationality, which is we can absorb all this information, and a focus on the individual. We can plan events, we can communicate um, directions, and we can enforce contracts with individuals. The reality of 4.0, Industry 4.0, with all these new technologies, is that the information is imperfect. We don't have the ability to process it all, and we need to collaborate. We can't know the future. We can't plan for all future events. We need to work collaboratively. As we'll see in a few moments, This fundamentally changes the way we think about technologies and how to apply those technologies. We need to move away from continuous improvement, cost reduction, cost efficiency to ecosystems that are built on collaboration and market responsiveness. Away from plan driven to market driven, to systems that are pulled, systems that are open, that allow people to enter, exit as the market demands. And that again requires a new way to think about technology. So we need to rethink at some level the way we look at, assess, and apply these technologies. The problem is there are a lot of them out there, and this is just an example of different technologies, most of which you voted on, top one being artificial technology, but all of these are playing a role. And what we have here in the two middle squares are the um, Gartner hype curves. And I'm sure you're all familiar with the hype curves, but the hype curves are basically, and Gartner is one of the leading technology research organizations in the world, and they spend a lot of time looking at technologies and understanding whether these technologies are ready or not. And if you could read these slides, um, but these are easy to focus on, and you'll get the slides, so you'll be able to blow this up later. You'll see that many areas, many of these technologies certainly have awareness, as you're all aware of. But the real question is, what's their level of maturity? Are they overhyped? Oftentimes, and the way the curve works is, a new technology comes on the horizon. It looks like it's going to, solve all problems. It gets overhyped. The hype curve gets hyped up, and at some point, we realize that the technology is not really as mature as we thought, not really ready for prime time, and as a result, we rapidly descend into what's called the valley of disillusionment until the technology begins to mature and then is ready for application. So what I want to share with you are two frameworks that we use in the courses, many of the courses we teach, and certainly ones I teach, to give you a sense of how to think about whether technologies are ready or not, and give you a sense about how to think about how to apply those technologies. And then I want to spend just a few minutes talking about my supply chain course and show how we would take what we've discussed in this conversation and give you some sense of how that would get taught in a class. So here is a model we use. We won't linger on this too much, but we'll see that the two real fundamental determinants of whether a technology is ready or not is really around the technology itself. Has it been deployed successfully? Is it mature in terms of documentation support? Do we have an installed base of users that we can both rely on their experience in implementing as well as learn from their lessons in applying? How about the organization? What is the business impact? What is the change readiness? What is the operational support maturity? These are factors that are very important in understanding whether a technology is ready or not. And this is certainly something that we would talk about in this course, and it's something that we talk about in many of the courses we have here in our department, both in the Master of Technology program as well as in the Industrial Engineering program that I lead. Let's get on to the technologies. A lot in this slide, but let me walk you through it a little bit. Okay. When we and I look at digital technologies, especially as they relate to supply chains, we really look at them in three core domains. The first is in forecasting and prediction. Obviously, we need to understand what's coming so that we can be ready for it. Planning and collaboration. Now that we know it's coming, how do we work with our business partners to get ready for it? How do we plan? How do we collaborate? Once we have determined what we need to do and how we need to do it, then how are we going to manage what we have? Operations and supply chain management. And again, there's a lot here, and you'll get the slides. But let me summarize by saying most of the technologies out there, and this includes data analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on and so forth, are really focused on the traditional Industry 2.0. It's around prediction and developing and supporting contracts and improving efficiencies. At some level where, as we say, where I'm from Boston originally, and Boston is kind of convoluted city, and we say we've paved the cow paths. Boston seems very inefficient because the streets are all curvy and then none of them make sense because what we've effectively done, instead of rethinking the way we should have organized the city, we just took the new technology pavement and we paved over it. So yeah, we have nicer sidewalks, but it's still a confusing city. We're fighting the last war, as they say. We finally figured out the technology that would have won the last war, but it doesn't really help us in the new war. And many of these technologies really are focused on, we think now that they're here, that we can finally fix supply chains, okay? We'll get much better at predicting what the future is. That will allow us to write a much better contract, okay, and allow us to enforce it much better. We'll get them on our ERP system. The ERP system will be much better because now it has AI built into it and machine learning built into it. And that will allow us to better model our system and better improve efficiencies and lower costs, and we'll be in a much better place. But the problem is it's not working. Okay, they're article upon article, and you don't really need to spend much time searching to see that it still isn't working. And the problem is it's the wrong model. Okay, the new model is one that's built on collaboration. It's built on not trying to predict the future, but trying to proactively manage the future, manage the demand, use the technologies to understand what drives behavior. How can we best understand how to influence demand? And how can we use these technologies to not lower cost, but improve our ability to collaborate? The starting point really should be the middle, okay? And not an ERP, MRP focus, which is where we're traditionally focused, but mainly on how do we create collaborative real-time demand supply statusing that allows us to adjust schedule and commitments. From that, we can then build to the ability to, the second arrow, to increase reliability, to better understand our ability to deliver and to be able to meet delivery times, which then allows us to better understand how we can collaborate as demand shifts and better take this multi-tiered supply chain and use it to its advantage, which is the ability to reduce variation across different suppliers, reduce variation across different customers, and better synchronize the flow between suppliers and customers. At some level, supply chain management should not be called supply chain management because that sets the wrong tone. It assumes that the supply base at some level is the thing that can be most easily manipulated, and it really should be turned into demand management. How do we, in partnership with our suppliers, use these new technologies to better collaborate, to better improve reliability, so that in partnership we can do a much better job of managing demand? Think of Amazon, right? I'm sure all of you have received flash notices from Amazon that are alerting you to flash sales. That's a perfect example of a collaborative um, ecosystem. The, the hub, Amazon, understands from the suppliers, right, that there are opportunities to push more product through the system, okay, or to limit products coming in. And so together, this ecosystem is trying to maximize the flow through the system so that the suppliers and the customers are always satisfied. We always have plenty of demand, we always have plenty of capacity. How do we approach this? So our focus is on help in this case, but this is also, I think, highly illustrative of how we teach courses here at in our department. And just to give you a brief kind of view into our department, most of the professors, the majority of the professors, virtually all the professors, look a lot like me. They don't look exactly like me. They're not all males with, my build and complexity. But what I mean by that is they're professors who have a lot of industry experience. as well as strong academic credentials. So they have their feet in both worlds. The world of academia, where we're trying to look at, where we are and what's coming, but also the world of reality, which is how do we apply what we've learned in a way that makes sense for the students? And at the core of all of our courses is basically an experiential learning um, context where we have a lot of engagement, a lot of interaction, and a lot of opportunities for you to share your ideas with your colleagues in the forms of discussion forums, as well as present your ideas in presentations back to see if you can test uh, what you've learned and if it makes sense. In a sense, practice for the real world before you get there. In this course, my course, it's really about helping for you to assume a leadership role. I think what's important about the way we teach here is that our goal is to help you become a leader. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have an official leader role. This is meaning, when you first leave our program, that you'll be the leader, you'll be the chief supply chain officer, you'll be the senior project manager. We're talking about leadership at all levels. Okay. And really, you should be thinking of your opportunity to be a leader. And what I found in my own personal experience is that when I've embraced these kinds of methodologies, this kind of mindset, this kind of philosophy around um, bringing leadership to the table, okay, that I'm going to uh, bring a mindset that I can help the organization understand that creates leadership roles. Most of my career has been bringing leadership that's given me leadership. And that's basically what we're trying to teach in this course. A lot of it's built on Socratic method. I'm not practicing that now, but we would in class, which is, a lot of it is I ask questions, you ask questions, and together we try to learn from each other. But more importantly, we try to create a dialogue. You learn more when I ask and you try to play back to me than if I just simply tell you what we do. We're looking at this from the perspective of a manager, certainly. So if you want to be a supply chain manager, it's a great course, but also mainly from the perspective of helping managers. So many of our students want to be consultants, and this course will help you help managers. And many of you want to be business analysts, and course will help you as a business analyst help managers. Ultimately, though, we're helping managers because managers are managing the supply chain. The course is a methodology. It builds. It's basically um, built off the work I've done in many places, in particular A.T. Kearney, and then many companies after that. But it's basically a logical methodology that builds from establishing the foundation for how we need to think and where we need to go through defining what the performance targets are, to designing the supply chain, managing it, and using that as the foundation, then for the implementation of technologies and using that to drive digital transformation. We use discussion forums to develop fluency. We use and practice and connection with our colleagues in class. We use presentations to practice what we learned. We use quizzes to develop fluency. In my courses in particular, I give you the questions ahead of time. Okay, we discuss them in class. Obviously, I don't give you the answers ahead of time, but the idea is what are the most important things you need to learn to be fluent in this particular discipline, and how do we best prepare you? And then the quiz is a way to test that knowledge on your end, and also for me to make sure that I'm teaching this correctly to see if you're learning what I hope for you to learn. Again, the presentations are like a capstone experience. There in this particular course, there are three presentations that are built off the methodology. We provide a lot of guidance on how to structure those presentations, how to convert them into a story, and how do we develop your ability, most importantly, develop and gain consensus. I've had many people who've told me at the beginning of the semester that they're not good at presentations, they're afraid of them, and they're never going to be good at them. And by the end of the course, um, they are very good at presentations, very good at articulating what they think and how to convey that thinking. Even if you never want to be a manager, Okay, I mean, you want to be a contributor. Okay, you just don't want to lead people. There's nothing more frustrating in life than having a great idea and not being able to convince anyone of the idea and not seeing it implemented. And we'll develop that skill in you. And as I said earlier, the discussion forums are really closely aligned with the methodology. They're based on extensive case studies that are topical readings and videos. I refresh them every semester. Key questions that help you to understand how to read those case studies and how to contribute. And so we really pride ourselves in the kinds of courses we structure that not only bring you what we believe is the latest thinking, which I hope this brief conversation has illustrated for you, and ways of looking at technology that maybe just isn't simply, you know, study a technology and then apply it in the old way, but a new way of thinking. But maybe more importantly, how do you actually apply that in the real world? So there's lots of opportunities, both with me as the instructor to engage me in conversation, but also with your fellow colleagues to engage you, so that at the end of all this, you're fluent in the core concepts, but more importantly, in how to apply them. So we would love for you to join us on our journey to share the future, to shape the future. We really believe that here, we're not just teaching you what people are doing. We're actually teaching you something that will allow you to take a leadership role in sharing and shaping the future. So thanks. I appreciate the time. I really am inspired by not only the number of people who have come, but from all the diverse places you've come from, and really interested in hearing from you and hearing your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Mazoon, for your expert advice on the subject matter at hand. We'll quickly move to a few of the questions which have come from the students on supply chain transformation. Let's quickly begin with that. Okay. So Professor Mazoon, Arnav is asking us what are the future trends in digital supply chain transformation and how can businesses be ready for that?
Yeah, so I think when you go back to the slide deck, you'll see a lot of that here. The future of supply chain management is not let's reduce the cost, okay? And let's strong arm our suppliers, okay? The future of supply chain management and the future of organizations generally is let's collaborate, okay, on a shared future that proactively partners with customers and manages demand. This puts a premium on experiential learning, a premium on project management, a premium on change management. The old world at some level was simple, quote unquote simple. Predict the future as an individual, write a contract, shove the contract out there, have someone sign it, and then tell them to, deliver. And if they don't deliver, sue them. Okay? That doesn't work. Supply chain partners sink or swim together. If we don't collaborate, we're not going to swim together. And collaboration is very, very, very difficult, as we all know. And we teach you how to collaborate in this program.
Thank you so much for that, Professor Mazoon. Professor, there's a question which had come to me on chat. It's about that supply chain management is usually about people, processes, and technology. And people do play a crucial part of it. So the question being, how do you think would design thinking be implemented to improve the supply chain processes?
Sure, yeah, good question. So, at some level, even though this is not called a design thinking course, design thinking uh, is in our DNA and everything we do. Okay. And the essence of design thinking is to engage with, collaborate with, uh, effectively embed the customer in the process. You know, it's going to be a much better thing, whatever it is, if you are working closely with suppliers. That's the foundation for this course. It's the foundation for agile project methodology and many other things. And the key to design thinking, the key to or collaboration on design is the ability to share, the ability to both share what you're thinking, but also engage someone in a kind of collaborative shared experience. You can't really do that if you don't really understand how things work. Okay. And so what we do in our courses, and hopefully this outline of our supply chain course illustrates that, is we teach you how to think and share thinking. Okay. The better you are at critical thinking, and effective reasoning, which is the ability to share your thinking in a way that engages others in the process, the quicker you're going to get to a design that makes sense. And what you'll see in this course is because we are basically getting at the foundational element, you notice that the technology doesn't come for a while. Okay, and that's by design because too often people just rush in for a technology solution. I have a lot of experience in this space. And I can't tell you how many people, despite me telling them not to do it, buy technology, try to shove it into a situation, and then come to me later and say, you were right. Let's do this correctly. Let's make sure we understand what the problem is, what the solution is, and then bring the technology in. So I really think that what you'll see in all our courses, this course in particular, is that design thinking is really about creating a shared experience. And you can't really have a shared experience if you don't know how to critically think and effectively reason. And that's why we have discussion forums and the quizzes, the way they're designed, and the presentation structure as a way to help you get better and better at articulating what you're thinking so that you can engage people in that process.
Thank you so much for that, Professor. Professor, interesting question which has come to me is that one of the key thing which came into effect in recent times is the use of blockchain into supply chain management. The way how we have been using tokenization, QR codes and things to simplify and make the process of supply chain delivery more efficient. Do you think this entire process can be improved and made more efficient? And if yes, then how can that be achieved?
Oh, absolutely. I'm so glad I got that question. I feel like I paid someone to give me that question, so I appreciate it. Uh, uh, I could do a whole section on blockchain, okay? Another 20-minute talk on blockchain. I debated bringing blockchain slides into this, but I said I only have so much time. Blockchain is, I think, transformational as a technology and will fundamentally transform how supply chains work. I think that the way people think about blockchain and the way it's being applied right now is fundamentally flawed. They're basically taking a failed approach that's based on Industry 2.0, which is plan driven, forecast driven, which is largely being implemented through ERP systems. Think PeopleSoft, think SAP, think well, the other ones. I can't think they're not. And those technologies and the way they're implemented are fundamentally flawed. People are trying to predict the future. The beauty of blockchain applied correctly is that it reduces the cost of transactions. Transactions meaning, how do I find the person to work with? How do I assess the person to work with? And how do I make it easy for us to actually conduct business? Blockchain, properly understood, and very few people understand blockchain, can can enable the supply chain we're talking about of the future. And in our program, you'll learn about, we have courses on blockchain and you'll understand the technologies, but more importantly, in courses like mine, you'll really understand the correct way to apply them.
Thank you so much for that, Professor. Myself, being from tech background, definitely that is something I would like to discuss with you a bit more further. Yeah, sure. Professor, there have been questions coming up as to like Adnan over here is asking what are the essential skills students should develop to excel at digital supply chain management? What are some of the prerequisites they can learn before enrolling for the program?
Yeah, so you don't need to, you know, we don't have prerequisites per se. I mean, part of the beauty of both the Master of Technology program or the Technology Management program and the Industrial Engineering program is that we want to make this available to everyone. So we're not saying, unless you have a technical background, you can't succeed here. Our goal is to skill you up, okay, so that you can participate. Having said that, I do think, understanding data modeling, understanding simulation tools and techniques, understanding and trying to dive more deeply into um, artificial intelligence and what's really going on there and where the strengths are, where the weaknesses are will help. I think the final thing I'll say there is start to embrace the philosophical shift that I'm explaining here. It may not be obvious immediately, but I think the more you start to look around you'll start to realize um, that more and more companies are embracing this view, which is using these technologies, again, not to predict, not to enforce, but to understand and better collaborate. I've worked with one of the leading experts in this field, this guy, Rami Goldratt. More on him at some point if you join us. But I was telling Rami, who's one of the leading experts in this area, that Rami, I think a lot of people are, I think there's a few people that are starting to embrace this new way of thinking, but they're not talking about it because they realize it's a competitive advantage and they don't really want to share what they're doing. Okay. And I think one of the leading companies in this space is Procter& and Gamble. I use a lot of Procter& and Gamble case studies, and to me, they fully embody this new approach to digital supply chain transformation. And he started laughing, and he said, "Tom, they're one of my most important clients." So that's what I would do. I would start to take this presentation, start to read through it a few times, start to embrace this new way of thinking, and start to see for the different skill sets you have, the different ways you look at technologies. How does it, how are you starting to see this reflected in the way companies are actually working, especially the successful ones?
Thank you so much for that, Professor. Professor, one last question before we move ahead, is which has come up. If you can give some examples as to the kind of capstone projects or the industry standard projects which students would have worked upon while being enrolled in the program. If you can share a few
Wow.
examples
I
with us.
mean, I owe some people a lot of money out there. These are like the questions that I wanted people to ask. I feel like I actually planted the questions. So this is awesome. I am basically the manager of our capstone program. This is one of those things where I find myself often where I was with a group of people and all of a sudden everyone stepped back and I happen to be in the front. So uh, by default, I'm basically the manager of the capstone program. And I'm very proud of what we've built with that capstone program. I'll give you two key pieces of the capstone program, and then I'll give you one example. Okay, so the two key pieces of this. The first is we have a very robust capstone methodology, okay, that helps you understand how to work with teams, and more importantly, how to engage with senior people in the real world. Um, we teach you how to engage with senior stakeholders, and on top of that, we have a very robust mentoring program that we've implemented. So we have partnered with our alumni, NYU alumni. They have responded this semester alone. We have 25 capstone projects and over 80 alumni that have volunteered to be mentors. So not only do you get not only do you get a methodology that's robust, I've had most of my capstone sponsors tell me it's the best methodology they've ever seen when it comes to capstone. Not only do you get experienced faculty advisors that have been there and done it before, like me, but you also get a mentor. Okay. The second thing I'll say is that so you get a lot of support, a robust methodology, industry professors that know how to do this stuff and mentoring to help you in this process. But secondly, and as important is we invest a lot of effort and time in in finding capstone projects. Right. These are capstone projects that are actually very important to the sponsors. These aren't like, little side projects, oh, how cute, capstone. I can get a good branding opportunity. NYU, I'll tell people I'm doing an NYU capstone, I'll give the students some cute little unimportant project over to the left. We'll have them code something, we'll have them do a little bit of research and away they go. No, these these projects are actually very important to these sponsors. Okay, one example to make a point. We're doing a capstone with this company, this startup called Birthview. It's led by the two very, very accomplished entrepreneurs, a lot of industry experience. This is their third or fourth startup. They successfully entered the Stern Entrepreneurship Challenge and won it over the summer. They engaged our teams to help them get to the next level. So we set very aggressive targets at the beginning of the semester. Our students worked very closely with the two founders of this particular startup. By the end of the semester, they used the students' work, the students' presentation, to pitch for and successfully win entry into the second phase of the contest. That team is going to stay on as advisors. the second team that's coming on board is going to help them win the contest in the spring. So this isn't like these aren't like go get the cup of coffee, do a little coding for me on the side. These are real projects with engaged sponsors that are expecting a lot. My mantra in life is to, well, I have many mantras, but one of them is overpromise then overdeliver. I brag about our students constantly, which hypes up what people expect from us, and then we typically overdeliver. So I'm completely confident that our capstone experience will be the perfect ending to your time with us and really set you up for an outstanding job opportunity when you graduate.
Thank you so much for that, Professor. That was quite insightful, and thank you so much for answering all the student questions. There are quite a lot of other questions as well, which have come on chat, but considering the paucity of time, we would be moving ahead with our session. Thank you so much, Professor, for being here, and it was wonderful to hear your expertise on the subject at hand and to hear everything about digital supply chain transformation, which is there. Thank you so
Well, I
much.
appreciate that very much. And again, I can't tell you how appreciative I am of the great support who have come out for this program. We really hope that you apply. We really think we have something special to offer that is unique, very unique, unlike any other experience in the world. I actually have to go and teach a boot camp right now for the capstone. I have 200 students waiting for me in an auditorium right now. And I have about 3 hours of engagement with them. A lot of group exercise, a lot of team exercises. I need to run over there right now. So again, I just want to say thank you to Seed for setting this up. Thank you, Leanna, for inviting me to do this. Most importantly, thank you, students, for this opportunity to share with you a little bit what we can do. I think what you'll find is that, again, this combination of, academic rigor, industry experience, and overarching focus on technology management, and most importantly, innovation is really a game changer. I think will make a massive difference in your career. And I'm very happy to talk with anyone after this. I know that I'm inviting myself up for a life of no free time, but but I care deeply about your career. I've done a lot of work in getting mentors for us, developing workshops for career development workshops, building courses and programs in partnership with my other faculty on courses that we think will make a difference, and we want to make sure that you make the right choice. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Masood.
All right, see you later.
Thanks, Professor Mazzone. I'll go ahead and share my screen to get started with my part of the presentation. Let me find it. Hold on. Okay. So I'm just going to briefly go through some general topics about NYU Tandon specifically, and then about our application requirements. Professor Mazzone was here representing, he's the head of the Industrial Engineering Master's Program. In his department, he mentioned also the Management of Technology program, but you can see that we also have quite a few other engineering disciplines available. I'm assuming many of you are probably interested in business-oriented programs. In terms of those, we have the two programs I mentioned, plus financial engineering. We also have a biotechnology and entrepreneurship program for those of you who may be interested in that space, as well as a construction management program. And then in terms of those of you who are here for emerging technologies, obviously we have a lot of different programs in the engineering space, including a computer science program, data science programs, informatics. So there's a lot going on at Tandon in a lot of different fields. And one of the best parts about Tandon at this point is that and a lot of our engineering disciplines and programs are very collaborative and cross-disciplinary. That's extremely important these days to be able to reach across through different programs and technologies. We have a new dean that started recently in October, and his really driving message to the school and to our students is that he wants students to come here and not be defined by the program that they choose, but by the problems that they choose to solve. And you're not going to be able to solve those, challenging problems of our day without collaborating across disciplines. NYU itself is the largest private university in the United States. We have more international students than any other school in the United States, and we are truly a global institution. We have our main campus in New York City, but we also have large campuses in Shanghai and Abu Dhabi. The other centers that you see here are global centers. Some of these are reserved for, study abroad students who are trying to gain some sort of international experience, but also we have several global experiences, including with our management of technology program that take place at the London Center and the Shanghai Center. New York City itself is the #1 most influential city in the world in terms of economics, rated by Business Insider. We're home to all of the established tech giants like Facebook, Google, Amazon. But we also have many different high-tech industries that are looking for emerging talent. We've had a 22% job growth in New York City over the last 2 years, so it is really a great time to be a part of this economic powerhouse, which is New York City. And we really focus on trying to get students into that economy as quickly as we can. We have several different layers of career services for our students. We have first layer, which is the Wasserman Center for Career Development. This is a NYU-wide career center, offers many of the services that you see on the slide here, including the last bullet point, which is Interstride. Interstride is a database that was created for international students by international students. And what it does is it allows you to search as you would on a regular job search website. It shows open positions, but it also shows information about the different companies, including if they are willing to sponsor H-1B visas and also how many they have sponsored in the last few years. Many universities in the United States provide this service, but it generally costs for students to use, but we do provide it free of charge for our students. The next layer of service that we provide is a special Tandon Career Hub that is offered only to our engineering students at the Tandon School of Engineering. They offer many more personal hands-on services, such as our Summer Career Academy for admitted students. They provide direct referrals and really one-on-one mentoring and counseling for those of you who are looking for jobs. So this is both of these offices provide a lot of services and they don't force you to take advantage of them, but they are a very rich source of aid for our students who are looking for or who are deep into the job search. Just a few quick things about applying. Our deadline is still coming up. It's February 15th, so you still have time to get an application in for any of these programs, or if you've started an application, you have plenty of time to finish it up. As I said, our deadline's February 15th for our full-time students. For all of you who are attending this session, you will receive an email in the next week that will give you an application fee waiver code. So you'll be able to use that to waive the $90 application fee. The application's entirely online, so you will be able to fill out that application at the portal that you'll have access to. We will need transcripts from all of your previously attended institutions, but for the initial admission review, we will accept copies of these transcripts, copies of the official transcripts, so you can upload those yourself directly to the portal. All of our programs right now are GRE optional, so you don't need to worry about taking the GRE test. If you have already taken it, I would only submit it if you have a very, very top score. with a quantitative score close to 170, that would be the only time I would submit this GRE score. And then we also require an English language exam. If you have not taken that yet, probably the fastest one to do would be Duolingo. That's one you can take at your own convenience from home. So if you are trying to get that application in the next couple of weeks, that would probably be the quickest option for you. We also require resume, CV, and then an essay. We have a couple prompts that we ask you to fill out. 1 to 2 pages is a general guideline for that. We also require recommendation forms. We require 2, but you are welcome to submit up to 3. And these recommendation forms you can send out from the application portal. They are mandatory. If your recommender wants to write an additional letter, you can forward that, but they also have to fill out the form. And then if you have anything else that's very relevant, like a publication or something, you can upload that in the supporting materials. But again, that's also not required. There are a few programs that will require an interview, but it's generally by request on a case-by-case basis. And then in terms of scholarships, we do offer scholarships. All students who are admitted are automatically considered for a merit scholarship. So these are not full scholarships, but they are partial scholarships based on merit. And then we are also sponsoring a couple of scholarships with SEED. So if you have not heard about the SEED scholarship, or if you would like more information, you can get that from them. And that's just a quick overview of my presentation. You can see the most important part of this slide is the email address, engineering.gradinfo@nyu.edu. We have a large team of people answering emails at that link or at that email address. So please reach out there if you have any further questions.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Liana.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So Liana, we have been getting quite a lot of questions from students about admissions and additional details as well. First of all, thank you so much for providing all the information on various graduate programs, scholarship opportunities, career opportunities which students can get post completing a graduate program. Thank you so much for all that. Liana, one of the questions one of the students has asked is, before starting program in fall 2025, she wants to start up her own business for the next 6 months and has been asking, do these things play a pivotal role if they are mentioned during in the application itself? And from your side, if you can tell students a bit more about the holistic review process and what are the key ingredients which go behind a good application?
Yeah, so we get this question a lot. And first of all, obviously at this point, if you're applying for fall 2025, your profile is pretty much complete, right? Like, you can't join more clubs and organizations at the last minute. You can't do a lot of last minute research. You probably don't even have that much of a chance to increase your grades. So you have to think of it in terms of like, this is your profile and how are you going to present this profile in your application? One question I get a lot from Indian students specifically is things such as what you mentioned here, like, how many internships should I do? How many research projects should I have? Should I be volunteering? Is it better to have work experience or volunteer experience or research experience? And all of that is, I know that people are wanting to find what the magic formula is to get the right number of things to get an admission. And that is the completely wrong way to think about an application to graduate school. What we want to know is who you are, what your goals are, and how we can help you accomplish these goals. One example I wanted to share, I was in India in December talking to many students from across the country, and one student came up to me with the same question. He was very worried. He's like, I haven't done a lot of internships. I haven't done a lot of research. So I'm very worried about my profile. And I said, well, why don't you tell me your story? What's your story? And he said, well, my family owns a chemicals company in India, and I would like to take that company to the next level. I'd like to take it a global company. And I said, and he said, but I've only ever worked for my parents' company. I haven't done a lot of other things. And I said, that right there is a perfect profile. That is a profile where we know you have a very clear goal of what you want to accomplish. It doesn't matter that you haven't done any internships. It doesn't matter that you haven't done any research, because all of your work has been in this company that you are wanting to improve, to take to the next level, to take globally. That is a perfect thing that a faculty will look at and say, oh, we can help you with this. Like, you will be successful here. We can help you be successful. We get a lot of students asking, well, what I want is to get a good placement. Of course you do. Everyone wants to get a good placement, but that is not an inspiring story to tell in your application. So what I found about students is that most of you are extremely passionate about what you're doing. You have all of these things you've done. A lot of people are starting apps to help. I met a student who was starting an app to try and help distribute food from big hotels to places where it might be needed within India. But I didn't get that story from him until I'd been talking to him for 20 minutes, because he didn't think that that was an appropriate thing to share within the application. So what I'm trying to say is, like, let your personality come through. Let what your passions are come through, because what we're interested in are solving global problems. 90% of students coming from India want to study AI and get a good placement. That is not going to set you apart. Why do you want to study AI? What problems do you want to solve with AI? And how can NYU Tandon help you accomplish those and reach your goals? So going back to the original question, you want to start a business in the next 6 months. That's great. But what I want to know is, like, what is your goal with starting this business? Are you just starting a business so you can check something off on a box? Don't do it. Doesn't matter. Are you starting a business to solve a problem? Are you starting a business because you are interested in management or in supply chain? We want to know the why behind these things, rather than just a list of things.
Thank you so much for that, Liana. Liana, one interesting question has come up from Sohini in the chat, is that if you can help with more information in the NYU plus KAIST Korean Advanced Institute of Science and Technology programs. A recent international partnership happened in December in Washington. If you can throw some more light on it and the programs which are available.
Yeah, so with that program, it's not the same as Abu Dhabi or Shanghai, where you would be admitted to Tandon and then you would just go to KAIST for your program. What is happening is many different departments, almost all of them, are starting collaborations with faculty and departments at KAIST, which is very exciting. And there are opportunities to do collaborative research with the students and faculty there. But it really is a department to department, project by project type of collaboration. And so it's not necessarily, like I said, it's not something where you would join an electrical engineering program and you would do the whole program at KAIST. And that may be coming in the future, but since this is such a new partnership right now, we're focusing on research collaborations.
Thank you so much for that, Liana. Liana, one question which students usually have as to how is the student life in the United States? How is it around in New York City, in Brooklyn? You can throw some light on that. And what are the additional resources available for international students on campus?
Yeah, so I'll start with the end of that question and then move to the beginning. As I mentioned, NYU is the #1 school in the United States for the number of international students. So our campus is very global. The student body, we have students from all over the world. And as such, we have a very large Office of Global Student Life. They have to process many, many student visas, but they also plan regular activities. They work with students in connecting you to other people, taking you on outings around New York City, supporting you if you have any trouble with your visa or questions about the visa regulations. So we have a very robust office to help you with all of that, and you'll start working with them as soon as you're admitted to a program. In terms of student life, At NYU, just like any other university in the United States, we have many, many different clubs and organizations. Some of them are based around, your subject matter. So we have like a consulting club or a robotics club, that sort of thing. But we also have very fun things too, like a pizza club where you get to try pizza from all different places in New York City. But another very important part of student life at NYU is the city of New York itself. And that is different than a lot of other places in the United States. New York is unlike any other city in the US. And we find that actually international students often tend to be more comfortable in the city than, for example, a US student who came from a small town in the Midwest. And that's because a lot of you are used to the hustle and bustle of a lot of people, right? We have it's one of the only places in the US where there's a very robust public transportation system. So I don't own a car. Most of us don't own cars. You can get around the city very easily. But it's also a place where, every block is a different experience. There's, different cultural festivals going on, lots of different food that you can try. So many different things that you can experience. We obviously have at NYU, we have a lot of, for example, sporting activities you can join, intramural, where you compete against other students, that sort of thing. But even within the city, one example is my coworker, when she first moved to New York, she played volleyball at very amateur level. And she signed up with this volleyball group in the city. They tested her experience, and now she's able to play with a bunch of people across the city at her level. This happens from all different things. My roommate, when I first moved to New York many years ago, she loved knitting. So she joined a knitting and wine group. And so they would go meet once a month to just do their activities. So obviously NYU has a very supportive and robust community, but the real benefit of being in New York City is to take advantage of everything that's going on there.
Thank you so much for that, Liana. A quick announcement to everyone who has joined the session today. I know Liana covered about the SEED scholarship, which is on offer and which is provided by New York University Randall School of Engineering. So there are 5 awards which are covering up to $20,000 of your tuition fee. The application deadline for this scholarship is closing on 15th of March. And if you're looking forward to applying for the scholarship, the link for applying is on the chat. Liana, one last question before we come to the end of the session today. What would be your tips or your final words for all the students who are looking forward to applying for fall 2025 before the last deadline on 15 February? Any tips before students submit their final application, or any last words to the students who are aspiring to be at NYU in fall 25?
No, I would just say repeat what I said earlier, that at NYU Tandon, we are not looking for you to be defined by your program, but by the problems that you want to solve. And please think about that. This world has a lot of challenges coming up that we know technology can help solve. Health challenges, digital challenges, cybersecurity, all kinds of things that we want our students to rise to the occasion. And so we want to know coming in that you have that you're aligned in the same way, that you want to help solve problems, that you want to help change the world through technology, through improving supply chain, improving processes. And so please let that come through in your application. That's who we're looking through for. That's who we want to welcome to our community. Thanks again so much, everyone, for coming, and look forward to speaking with you another time.
Thank you so much, Liana, and to Professor Zone as well for joining earlier and being with us for the session today. It was grateful to have you with us, and thank you so much. Goodbye. Have a good day.